Michael Jackson's Stranger in Moscow is one of the most autobiographical songs in his discography. It is one of the songs from the History album that gets not as much love as I think it should. And so I wanted to start this off by talking up to you guys about some little known facts about Michael Jackson's Stranger in Moscow song, talking about what it means to me, and doing a little bit of a mini deep dive into the track. Now, Stranger in Moscow was released in July of 1997. It was the sixth and final single from Michael Jackson's History, Past, Present, and Future album. Okay, so the song was released internationally, first of all, as the sixth and final single worldwide on November 4th, 1996, but then it was not released in the United States until July. The track was written actually on the Dangerous World Tour. Michael Jackson was on the Dangerous World Tour, and he wrote this in September of 1993, as many other autobiographical songs do, and spoke to his true experiences. And one of the experiences that I think is so unique to Michael Jackson is the isolation and just how alone he felt sometimes within his stardom and his fame. It's one of Michael Jackson's slowest songs, featuring an intro with rain, which growing up I used to listen to and feel just like all the feels. I actually just even thought about this right now, and I'm like, I have a CD player. I need to go get my History album and start listening to that and listening to the rain, because it's just so calming, that introduction, coupled with the beatboxing intro. So basically, Michael Jackson beatboxed and then pretty much turned it into an instrument using recording studio magic that they use. And it was so comforting to me listening to it as a teenager. And while he was there in Moscow, during the Dangerous World Tour, he wrote this song, and I want to read you guys an excerpt. I actually got this from a book called Michael Jackson, All the Songs, which is no longer in print to my knowledge, but I got this on Kindle, and it is one of the best sources, you guys, for Michael Jackson music. If you're learning about it, if you're diving deep into certain songs or certain albums. Here's a quote from Michael Jackson. Stranger in Moscow was written when I was in Moscow on the Dangerous Tour, and it was just a strange, eerie, lonely time for me.
Stranger in Moscow was written when I was in Moscow on the Dangerous Tour, and it was just a strange, eerie, lonely time for me. Outside my hotel was just a sea of faces of fans chanting and screaming, but I was inside my room and I felt so all alone, like I was like the last person on the planet. And in the song I say, how does it feel when you're alone and you're cold inside? I say it's like a stranger in Moscow, and that's pretty much how I felt. And the people were lovely. They were some of the nicest people I've ever met, and the concert was very successful. But that day, especially that day, I just felt this different feeling, and the song Stranger in Moscow came to me. So that's how that was written.
Supposedly, during the time of media and everything else, it upset Michael and damaged his health, so much so that he had canceled the remainder of the Dangerous World Tour and went into a rehab. And the media did not show him much sympathy at this time in the mid 90s. And it was just like the tabloid stuff and all of that, just really, really hard on Michael. And so I think that was another point of frustration in his life, and feeling just so isolated from the world, and everybody having all these opinions about him, but not really knowing how he's feeling inside. So taking a look at some of the reception when the song was released, Stephen Thomas Erlewine of AllMusic.com noted of History, Jackson produces some well-crafted pop that ranks with his best material. Stranger in Moscow is one of his most haunting ballads. At this time, the Associated Press also described it as an ethereal and stirring description of a man wounded by a swift and sudden fall from grace, because that's literally what he says in the song, swift and sudden fall from grace. There's just so much to go into with the song, but the last thing I'm going to mention is Bruce Swedien, longtime collaborator with Michael. He describes one of Michael's best songs that he's ever done as Stranger in Moscow. I think one of the things that really makes Stranger in Moscow so different than a lot of the rest of the songs is that although it has a lot of different layers to it, it seems like it's just really one of the songs where Michael is emoting and really trying to speak to your heart without a whole lot of like extra production and stuff behind it. And yes, it is like a produced song. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't have all of the layers and all the elements that Michael Jackson songs are known for, especially in the 90s. And one of my favorite parts about the Michael Jackson One show in so, Las Vegas, the Cirque du Soleil show, is when they play Stranger in Moscow. And it's just such a like, I don't even know. It always brings tears to my eyes because it's just a very emotional and raw moment listening to Michael, especially when you hear his a cappella vocals for this song. Now, when it comes to Stranger in Moscow performed live, Michael Jackson did perform this live on the History World Tour from 96 to 97. And it was kind of an interesting performance because he did like a lot of like the robots and like that movement, the isolations and all of that. And he was pretty much on the stage by himself dancing to the song. And I thought it was an interesting interpretation because if you look at like the music video, it's so different. It's like a lot of just Michael walking in the rain, and it's focused around a lot of other people who are also living in isolation on this like dark and cloudy day, while the rest of the world is like moving around them in slow motion. And I love the music video for Stranger in Moscow. It's not one that I grew up seeing because the Stranger in Moscow song only peaked at number 91 on the top 100 Billboard charts as a single. But yeah, I wanted to also include one last thing about the song, and this is from a biographer, Randy J. Tabarelli. I know, don't get me. I know a lot of people are not so much into this book. I really enjoyed the very first iteration of this book that came out in the 90s when Randy Tabarelli actually had like that one-on-one contact and interviewed Michael and all that. But I know that later on, it's like some of the stuff written in the biography is kind of questionable, although it is a good biography. It's a very like detailed biography, and it's like covers pretty much his whole life. If you're interested in that, I'll link that down below. But J. Randy Tabarelli, he has stated that the video for Stranger in Moscow was based on Michael's real life because he used to walk around alone at night looking for new friends, even at the peak of his popularity in the 1980s. And this is kind of sad. Michael shared in the 80s, even at home, I'm lonely. I sit in my room sometimes and cry. It's so hard to make friends. I sometimes walk around the neighborhood at night just hoping to find someone to talk to, but I just end up coming home. Everything about this track, everything about the lyrics, everything about just the musicality of it is just beautiful. It's phenomenal. And I think that this is one of the tracks that has the power to help people out of a sad place, out of depression, out of loneliness. You know, I do think that music is very healing. And so this is one of the songs that I think that's bittersweet, right? Because of course we as fans don't want to hear about Michael being sad and feeling lonely, especially when we feel so connected to him while we listen to the music. But yeah, the vocal delivery is just on point. The production is on point. And I even love like the touch of the Russian in the background. People are speaking Russian in the back. There's the kid that is like says something and then says his name. I'm not really sure. One of my personal favorite songs. That's my little deep dive and chat about The Stranger in Moscow. Let me know if you'd be interested in another deep dive and another track. And there are so many tracks to go into, and we can do this every week if you guys want. So let me know some of the other tracks that you guys would like me to dig deeper into and share my personal experiences with. Make sure that you're also checking me out on Patreon. I post over there 3 times a month, exclusive content. I just posted a Lisa Marie and Michael Jackson primetime interview with Diane Sawyer reaction, where I watched the entire thing. It's like an hour-long reaction video, you guys. It's super fun to go back into time and watch interviews and music videos and moments in time and share them with you guys and give you guys my real feelings and thoughts. And I can be a little bit more candid over on Patreon than I would be here on YouTube. So make sure that you're visiting patreon.com/MJFANGIRL. The cost is only $4.99 a month. Everything goes towards helping the channel out, you guys, and making sure that I'm able to post for you guys weekly, both here on YouTube and on the podcast platforms. If you're looking for me on Apple Amazon or Spotify. In terms of podcasts, you can find me by searching MJ Fangirl Club 30s with MJ Fangirl is what it's called over there. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. You can comment on Spotify, you can comment on YouTube, you can leave me a note on my website, mjfangirl.com. But until then, I'll talk to you guys next time. Thank you to our Patreon Platinum sponsor, Marlis. You are the absolute best. Thank you so much for your support. If you'd like to support and get your name mentioned, visit my Patreon for more info.